Recommendations on programming to build up chest, like exercises, frequency, and volume. It's the same as other muscle groups. If you're trying to figure out, oh, well, what should the programming be like for chest? It's like same as other muscle groups. It's not really going to be all that different, if different at all. But flies, presses, multiple angles, you'll be good to go.
Programming. Now, disagree with him because exercise selection is very important, and so is exercise series or like the order. Yeah, exercise order. So exercise order is very important because some body parts would, depending if you're doing compound exercises with regular isolation exercises, you know, if you're bench pressing, for example, you're not only hitting the chest, but you're also hitting shoulders and traps. So doing shoulders and trap exercise before you bench press wouldn't be a good idea. You're going to be weaker, and you definitely need those muscles to help you avoid dropping the weight on yourself. Right? Same thing as doing forearm exercises before you do any exercise that requires you to hold the weight, especially if it's a heavy weight like bench press. So exercise selection and the order in which you exercise is very important, because if not, you will injure yourself. And that's why I don't like it when someone tries to make it seem like, well, it doesn't matter, do whatever you feel like, whatever is good, whatever you like. It's like, no, 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 no. There's certain exercises that I like, but they're not good in a program. They're not good in a routine if there's other exercises that clash with it. For example, I used to do calf raises where I would hold the barbell in front of me. So I grab the barbell, hold it in front of me like I'm going to do a deadlift or a Romanian deadlift, right? But then I just start doing calf raises. Now, that's just one simple way of doing calf raises, and I like it. However, it affects my traps, and it also affects my forearm, right? So it's putting a lot of isometric stress on my traps and my forearm, holding the weight in front of me while I do the calf raises. And I'm using very heavy weight, so of course it's the mechanical stress is going to be a lot higher because it's very heavy weight, right? That I'm doing this exercise with. But if I was doing this exercise on a machine, where the machine is holding the weight, and I just move the weight, with my body and calves, so my calves are the main one getting most of the stress, and we're relieving stress off my arms, off my traps, right? And putting the stress more on my calves where it should be, because I'm trying to do a calf exercise, not a shoulder, traps, or forearm exercise. So you see the importance. So even if I like an exercise, if it negatively affects my workouts and causes me to overtrain, where I train a muscle isometrically before I even do an exercise for that muscle, because now I'm hurting, you know, uh, I'm hurting that next exercise, right? I'm hurting that lift. So if I'm doing that calf raises, but then my traps are weaker, right? Or like my traps plus my shoulders, like my delts, right? And then I try to do some like shoulder exercise, like maybe like a military press or something. I'm gonna be a lot weaker by the time I do that lift. And since I'll be weaker, that lift is gonna be harder. And it being harder means I could end up injuring myself, right? Not too long ago, I injured myself with just lifting weights, because since I mainly use dumbbells, that means I'm always holding the weights in my hands. That I started creating some damage in my forearms. So my forearms got extremely overtrained. It took a couple months now for them to, for my forearms to heal. And there's still a little bit of pain here and there, a little bit of stress, because I'm still lifting heavy. I'm not lifting light. I'm still lifting heavy. But at least I was able to fix the problem by drinking milk, blah blah blah, and that kind of stuff, and taking some deloads to allow my forearms, mainly the bone plus the muscles, to get stronger, so I can continue my lifts, so I can continue lifting heavy. But because I was doing a lot of exercises that use my forearms, I end up getting injured, right? Just like before, I injured my shoulders because I was doing too many exercises that required me to hold the weight, and I was mainly using barbells, and my shoulders kept getting a lot of indirect exercise from holding weight, from lifting weight, right? And then the lateral raises, and then lat pull downs, tricep extensions, and whatnot. And that's the other thing. Like when you do the bent over dumbbell tricep extension, you gotta lift the weight up, lift your elbow up to your side and start doing the workout. But of course, your shoulder is involved in raising up your elbow to the side of your body, right, to your obliques, and then you do the exercise, and you have to hold it there. So that's isometrically affecting your shoulders. So a lot of the exercise I was doing added up. It compounded the amount of weight and stress that was being applied to my shoulders. So of course, eventually, after a couple months of working out, I was going to develop shoulder pains. So I had to deload to let my shoulders heal. And then not only that, I also had to change my workout, the workout selections. I had to change the workouts that I was doing to reduce and mitigate that problem happening again of overlapping exercising, like exercising overlapping muscles, causing me to do more shoulder exercise or stress my shoulders more than they needed to. Like I only want to stress my shoulders when I do lateral raises. I don't want to stress my shoulders, calf raises, squatting, barbell curls, back rolls, barbell rolls and stuff like that. Like I don't want to stress my shoulders out more than at the time I do an exercise for it. So that's why it's very important to have specific exercise. So that's why exercise selection is important. Another thing is, depending on your client, because I had a client who asked me for a workout routine, full body workout routine, twice a week or some stuff. I forgot the full details of, but they definitely wanted to make sure that the exercise that I selected for it was not painful for his shoulders or back. Because he says he got injured, he's ex-military and whatnot, so he has some back issues and he has some shoulder issues. But he wants to work out, and he wants to work out the exercises that I pick for his program to not negatively affect his shoulders or his lower back. So he wanted exercises that take the lower back and shoulders out. So could I perfectly take the shoulders and the lower back out of a workout routine? Not 100%, but I definitely drastically reduce. I even created I think 2 exercises. I had to create 2 exercises. It was like a cable chair thing. So I used the bench, set it up, straight up. So you can sit on it and sit up straight, and then use a cable to do something. So I forgot what exercise it was, but it just shows the point that's like, you can't just say, oh, just whatever, just any routine, even the order doesn't matter. Like TNF tried to say in the video, I was like, no, the order does matter, and so does the selection. Not every exercise is viable, not every exercise is valid, right? Some exercises are better than others. They're all the same, blah, 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 because in reality they're not. They all hit the same muscles, or they try to hit all the same muscles, but they're not all the same. They have different uses and purposes. Because there's some exercises that you can use specifically because you don't have barbells. So you can't do barbell exercise if you don't have barbells, right? You can't do machine exercise if you don't have machines, obviously, right? If you have no dumbbells, you can't do dumbbell exercise, and the list goes on, right? If you don't have a pull-up bar, you can't do pull-ups, and the list goes on like that, right? So it's very important that, yes, exercise selection is very important. And it's nice that we have variety, because even a couple times I was like, if I can't do this, I'll do this instead. For example, I maxed out a leg press, because the highest I went was like 200 pounds, and it's like, well, I maxed it out. I was like, well, I need more weight, and I ain't have no gym pin and all that stuff, because I didn't own the gym. I was just using a gym. So since I maxed out the leg press machine, I obviously had to find an alternative. Now, granted, you could say, well, were you using both legs? Yes. So why don't you just do one leg press? That is true. That is an option, and I considered it. But I was like, nah, I'm gonna do squat instead, because I had access to Smith machine. So I started doing Smith machine bench squats. So I will set it up for me to do a squat using a bench as a safety, as a limiter of how far down I go, as well as I still put up the little safety feature to make sure the weight doesn't drop, fold me in half, right? So I made sure there was multiple safety measures, right? So that I don't hurt myself doing the squat. Plus, of course, padding on my shoulders, so that way the pads don't hurt my traps, right? Because hurting my traps is going to be a problem, because then my traps are going to be hurting, especially when I'm doing an exercise, and so that's always a bad idea. But just further proving this, really important to understand that, yes, we have different exercises for different purposes. I was even thinking, if you get to a point where you're running out of weights, right? Let's say I maxed out the Smith machine, right? So after I maxed out the leg press, then I end up going to the Smith machine, and I maxed that out. Then what, right? What's next? So what's next would be the one legs, right? Bulgarian splits, right? So, squat on one leg. So that way it's one leg plus your body weight plus the weight on your shoulder, right? And you'll be doing this on a Smith machine, and you use the bench in order to hold one of your legs, so you can do the Bulgarian split squat, right? And that's how you'll be able to keep going. And then, but of course, what if you max that out? Well, then it's maxed out. Obviously, we'll figure out some other way to, add more resistance. But you get the idea that we have different exercises that we can use after we can't use the exercise no more because of limits, right? Limitations. If you're injured, you definitely don't want to bench. If you want to work on your chest, but you have shoulder injuries, don't bench press. Obviously, use a pet deck or some type of chest machine, That way, it reduces the fact that you need your shoulder strength to hold the weight above you, like you do when you bench press. So I'm getting so distracted. Forgot where I was at. So order is important, of course, and then of course the exercise selection. So I definitely disagree with Tina that it doesn't matter, because it definitely does. Some people, it's better suited for them to use machines. I typically recommend machine exercises for women. For guys, yes, I'll recommend doing some free weights, but mostly I do recommend a lot of machine-based exercises because it's much easier, especially if you're a beginner. I want you to get used to the movements, get used to progressing and getting strong enough that if you do decide to use free weights, it'll be easier than if you were weak and start using free weights, because you can overestimate your strength, think you're stronger than you really are, and end up hurting yourself lifting a weight that you normally couldn't. And the injury could just be something as simple as, like, you try to lift the weight off the rack and it pulled your forearm or your shoulder a little bit too far, and you hurt yourself. So you hurt your shoulders just trying to lift a weight off the rack. And think how terrible that would be. And all you were trying to do was like maybe some bicep curls, and you injured your shoulder just trying to take a weight off of a dumbbell rack. So that's why I would recommend doing machine exercises first before you even consider using free weights. Now, your body, your choice, do whatever you want, however way you want. I'm just saying, logically, intellectually, and especially if you're a coach like myself, it's better to be safer than sorry. If I'm coaching somebody, the last thing I want is somebody that I'm coaching to get injured just because I was like, hey, yeah, go ahead, bench press without a spotter or some shit. Like, no. There's no spotter, there's nobody that can spot you, then you better use a Smith machine, right? But ironically, I don't even believe in the spotter concept. Like, I rather people bench a Smith machine. I'm not really into the free weight benching. I'm not against it, especially if you're like powerlifting, then that's different. But if all you're trying to do is just make your chest bigger, a Smith machine is perfect for it. It's safer, better, and there's other types of press machines or chest press machines. So you can use chest press machines to build up your chest. Cables and flies, that kind of stuff. So there are options, which is the good thing. There's options, so obviously take advantage of the options. And some people do way more prefer machines than free weights. So it's very important that, yes, you select the right exercises to get your clients, the people you're trying to help, the results that they're looking for. Instead of making a program based off of your preference, it's supposed to be based off of your customers or your clients' preference. So I hate when people like to be like, nah, man, you gotta do it like this, that, there, because it's optimal, because I say so, and this is the way I do it, so you should do it too. Look at my muscles. I know what I'm talking about. And I was like, no. If you truly knew what you're talking about, you wouldn't even use yourself as an example of what people should do. You should just be like, all right, let me look at you, my client, what you're capable of doing, what it looks like you can do, and then I'll make something based off of what you look like you're capable of doing. If you look like you got a power lifter type body, then yeah, you can use free weights. But if you don't look like a power lifter, I'm not gonna tell you to do free weights. I'm gonna tell you to do machines first until you're big enough like a power lifter. Then you can do the free weights. So it's just that's just how I do things.